And with a commitment from Mr. Amri and governments in the region, we can see that the credit union will continue to grow. As always, one good hit must follow another. And so we're going to have the keynote address now from the Prime Minister of St. Kitts-Nevis. Let's put our hands together and welcome Honourable Denzil Douglas.
I'm glad that he hasn't mistaken me for anyone else. Your Excellency, Sir Edmund Lawrence, our Governor General of St. Kitts and Nevis, the Honourable Van Simwe, Premier of Nevis, and the Honourable Alexis Jeffers, Minister in the Nevis Island Administration, Mr. Aaron Moses, the President of the Caribbean Confederation of Credit Unions, and Mr. Andy Liebert, the President of the St. Kitts-Nevis National Cooperative League, heads and executives and members of the OECS Credit Union, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. I want to welcome you to the 11th Annual Credit Union Summit here in St. Kitts and Nevis. And to those members of our audience who have traveled here from our sister islands, I know that it could not have been easy getting here. Of course, having heard some of the comments earlier. And this, of course, is due to certain logistical difficulties being experienced in the region's transportation sector at this time. Nevertheless, we are pleased that you are here and you were able to get here. And we extend to you a particularly warm welcome to St. Kitts and Nevis. And to those members of our audience who had no waters to cross to be a part of these 2 days of reflection and deliberation, because you live right here in our federation, we're very pleased to have you represent the St. Kitts and Nevis contingent of all those who have gathered here to participate in this important annual exercise that permits us in the Eastern Caribbean to sharpen and to refine yet another area of regional professionalism, competence, and overall effectiveness. I'm very much aware of the serious thought and effort that the credit unions of this region have invested in the twin pillars of institutional safety and soundness. And for this, I commend you because safety and soundness within the region's credit union sector has direct implications for the safety and soundness of our region as a whole. I'm also much aware of the emphasis that you have been placing on regulatory awareness and regulatory compliance. And for this, I commend you also because I really think that we can all agree that the past 5 years have been a powerful global teacher of the importance of all regions and institutions functioning within strong, well-thought-out regulatory frameworks. Finally, I am aware of your efforts through sessions such as this one, but in other ways as well, to foster a spirit of collaboration, cooperation, and compliance in order for the financial sector practitioners, the region's governments, and the public at large to work together to advance the public good. Over the past 3 decades, we have all seen the Eastern Caribbean identify and move toward so many new areas of cooperation and harmonization. And I have seen how the region's credit unions, for example, have observed what has been going on in the rest of the world and learned from the sometimes harsh and bitter experiences of others. It was not so long ago that many, all across the globe, had assumed that the large economies of the world were almost invincible. Many around the world had assumed that real and debilitating economic trauma was a phenomenon that would never be experienced by the larger and more powerful members of the world economy. 2008, however, and the years that have followed have ushered in a whole new world of financial insight and awareness, and everyone everywhere has come to understand sharply and keenly that no economy is invincible, that is, no economy is impervious to major destabilization shocks, that no economy can afford to be reckless with the assets that have been placed in their management and the assets that have been placed in their control. There had for a long time been a huge war raging beyond our shores. Some in our region were aware of it, others were not. But this was a war that pitted the determined proponents of financial regulation against the relentless advocates of almost unfettered financial deregulation. The relentless advocates of deregulation, as we know, eventually won. And much of the world ended up as collateral damage. We in these islands, for example, had nothing to do with causing or triggering the crisis, but because of the interwoven nature of today's global economy, the ripple effects found their way to every corner of the world, including right here in the Caribbean and right here in St. Kitts-Nevis. Today, I emphasize that we have a great deal to be thankful for here in St. Kitts-Nevis. Of course, because we were spared the massive downturns, the massive layoffs, and the governmental crises that we have seen elsewhere around the world. Yet, I must emphasize that there is no denying the fact that the crisis beyond our shores had a dampening effect here as well, just not to the extreme and to the extent that has been experienced elsewhere. But as I have said, we in the Eastern Caribbean have taken note, and the governments, our governments, the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, and the financial institutions like yours have, as a result, developed an even keener appreciation of the importance of functioning within insightfully developed, practical, and effective regulatory frameworks. It is a credit to you, I emphasize, as the region's credit unions, that your heightened appreciation of the importance of strengthening credit union regulation and supervision has led you, over the years, to seek and secure technical assistance to facilitate your sector's self-regulatory practices. And this is important because of the very large amount of our region's assets that you are managing. This fact alone underscores the importance of the kind of in-depth review and analysis that you have arranged to take place here over the next 2 days. And from the issue of corporate governance to the challenges of expanding your loan portfolios, from the issue of statutory reporting forms to that of innovation, all of which are key components of any responsible management strategy, it is clear that you have established for yourselves a focused and relevant agenda. How can the credit unions of this region, in this age of heightened competition and expanded options, facilitate greater popular participation in the financial markets? How can the credit unions of this region encourage and facilitate expanded savings? How indeed might the region's credit unions best expand the public's awareness of the competitiveness of your sector vis-a-vis other financial institutions that have long operated in our islands? These are all important challenges and important considerations, and for 11 years now, you as an organization have understood the importance of coming together on an annual basis in order to grapple with precisely these issues and many more. Most importantly, we understand the importance and indeed the wisdom of not only meeting and working with your regional counterparts, but by collaborating with institutions such as the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank and the World Bank as well. This is indicative of the seriousness with which you approach your responsibility to ensure safety, to ensure soundness of your sector, and the island nations of the Eastern Caribbean are all the better for it. Permit me to note also that the theme that you have chosen for this year's summit encapsulates perfectly the guiding ethos that has emerged throughout the Eastern Caribbean over the years. Because really, although you gather here today to focus on credit unions' role within the region's broader financial industry, the second part of your theme, Strategies for a Successful Cooperative Movement, it captures perfectly what the ever-evolving and ever-expanding cooperative movement within the Eastern Caribbean has been all about all these years. As Prime Minister and as Minister of Finance, and as a member of the St. Kitts Cooperative Credit Union, I emphasize that I am well positioned to assess the contribution of the various players within our country and our region's financial industry. And I would like to make a point at this time of noting the very positive contributions that our region's credit unions have been making to the vibrancy of our regional economy, and what a positive presence the St. Kitts-Nevis National Cooperative League represents within the country's credit union sector. I believe they deserve tremendous applause. And indeed, if we look at the social and economic realities in St. Kitts-Nevis, for example, and if we were to look at some of the nationwide initiatives which were specially designed to advance the socio-economic interests of our people, we do see a very clear and positive presence by the nation's credit unions. This morning I introduced to you the Sugar Industry Diversification Foundation. And this, for example, was established to ensure that the development options open to the people of this country would be both more vast and more readily attainable than at any time in our nation's history. And we thought that this was an important mechanism to be introduced to our federation, because as a result of the 400 years history of the Caribbean, far too many ordinary people, whether they were in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, or here in St. Kitts-Nevis, or in Antigua and Barbuda, indeed in any other Caribbean country we may choose to name, they have faced very real challenges overcoming the intergenerational lack of capital that are the clear and indisputable consequence of slavery and colonialism of our past. The Sugar Investment Diversification Fund here in St. Kitts and Nevis, however, is correcting this particular imbalance, extending to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis important opportunities for training, opportunities for new and previously unimaginable access to capital, and so on. And I wish to note here that the nation's credit unions have been very active in participating in the SIDF to the benefit of both their members and our country as a whole. I wish the 11th Annual OECS Credit Union Summit every success.